Hello, my name is Blake Higginbotham. Welcome to Home Family Gathering, where everyone has a place at the table in the Father's house. Thank you for joining us today. We're looking forward to connecting, communicating, corroborating, and collaborating with you. Remember this, you are loved, blessed, and highly favored. I'm sharing my screen with you today as usual. We're going to start a new book today. Once I get through with this new book, I want some of you to step up and share for a few weeks and give me a break, probably be by the end of the month that I'm through with this book. I'm not sure yet. We'll see how it goes. But this is probably one of the most important topics of our time. Holy Spirit's been speaking to me recently about the weakest link in the chain of our oneness are those that don't know who they are. He's also been speaking to me about the things that detract from our oneness, that hinder the forward advancement of the kingdom and thwart his purposes in the earth. It's easy to speak to the obvious general things that detract from our oneness, and even speaking to them, it doesn't seem to change that much, because what has to change is our understanding of who we are as well as who we are together in him. And our oneness is not something that's superficial, which was prayed to today. Our oneness is in him. And we like to say that oneness is not unison. Oneness is based on our diversity and our uniqueness, and that's so that we can maintain our own identity, which I do believe to be a mistake. I don't believe that it's our identity that's important. I don't believe that it's our individualism that's important. When it comes to baking of bread, you mix the flour and the eggs and the milk and the baking powder and the yeast and other ingredients together, and you stir them and you make them into one big lump. Well, if the flour put the emphasis upon how important they are and how distinct, different, and unique they are, and they refuse to be blended together with the other ingredients, then we wouldn't have bread, we would have something else. If the eggs did the same thing, if the milk did the same thing, if the baking powder did the same thing, if the yeast did the same thing, I think you get my picture in your mind that each ingredient, while individual and independent of one another, it must be blended together in order to make it dough for the purpose of baking bread. And if we're one together in him, then our individual expressions will begin to decrease and his expression will increase. If we're one together in him, then it will no longer be my personality versus your personality, or my way versus your way. It will be his way. And that brings me to another illustration and analogy that will help us all to maybe understand what Yahweh's doing at this hour. He is going to remove everything that detracts from our oneness in us first. It's easy to see what detracts from our oneness in others. It's easy to see what detracts from our oneness generally. Case in point, there are no white and black churches, because there's only one ecclesia and kingdom on earth as it is in heaven in every locale and region around the world. I can say that all day long till I'm blue in the face, and while I may understand that, there's a lot of people who can say it but don't understand it. In the kingdom, there are no Baptist, Methodist, Pentecostal, charismatics, interdenominational or non-denominational or independents. In the kingdom, there are no Catholics or Protestants. In the kingdom, there's only one house that Yahshua is building, and that is his Father's house. Now, I can say that all day long, and people will give us mental assent and agree to it in general, but they'll go right back to doing what they're doing this week, next week, and from now on until something begins to happen in them. So that which detracts from our oneness must begin to be removed from us individually, and our understanding of who we are in him together has to begin to emerge and increase and be enlarged in our understanding. And that's where I'm going to start with this today. True identity lost and found. The trauma of Adam's disobedience resulted in anxiety that ended in spiritual amnesia and lost identity. When I speak of people that have not come to a saving knowledge of the truth, have not been born again, I no longer speak of them as being lost. I shall speak of them as being not found yet. I speak of them as being someone who is still identifying with the first man, Adam, who fell, who was disobedient, rather than the last man, Adam, who represents righteousness and peace. So the identity that was lost has been found and can be found in only one place. His choice to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil brought not just sin into the world, but also deep existential consequences, fear, shame, and a fractured relationship with Yahweh. In other words, the damage that was done to the relationship and the fellowship and the oneness that he had with Yahweh took place with his decision to partake with his wife of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. But yet Yahweh still loved us. Yahweh never one time stopped pursuing us. Yahweh didn't become an angry, vindictive, vengeful God. Yahweh did not become a hate-filled, wrathful God against his creation. He even did what was necessary to cover the illusion of their darkness and separation and cover the fact that they felt like their identity was lost, that something had been broken. He even covered that with the skin of an innocent animal. And that was the beginning of the everlasting covenant of the kingdom under it was the Adamic covenant that he made with Adam and Eve. And it only was the first of many that he confirmed and reconfirmed with man, all the way to Messiah, who is the completion of the everlasting covenant of the kingdom. Are you beginning to follow me so far? Before the fall, Adam and Eve walked in perfect communion with Yahweh, fully aware of their identity and purpose. But after disobedience, they hid from Yahweh, signaling a loss of intimacy and a shift in their self-perception. Anxiety crept in, followed by alienation, not just from Yahweh, but from their own true selves, the authentic man. This spiritual amnesia meant forgetting who they were in relationship to their Creator, leading humanity into generations of identity struggles, or the fictional man. Before I define the authentic and the fictional man, I want to say that if the gospel of the kingdom that you preach still puts the emphasis on how lost and wicked and undone man is, if it still puts the emphasis on dying and going to hell, if it still puts the emphasis on anything, reconciliation and the possibility of found identity and regained position in the Lord, and as far as I'm concerned, you're not preaching the gospel of the kingdom. The other day I had the privilege, and won't mention any names, but I had the privilege of meeting a 17-year-old young man that's just begun his journey in the Lord. And I spoke to him the way I'm speaking to you now. And he says, wow. He says, I like that. And I really enjoy everybody's story. And then somebody during the time of my hair being cut by this young man came over and basically spoke of the homeless as wanting to be homeless. 3/4 of them want to be homeless, and they're only entitled to two things. That's to die and go to hell. Now, he heard the gospel of the kingdom coming out of me, but he heard it being preached from somebody else that, in my estimation, was not good news. And he identified immediately that individual had a different view and understanding of the things that I had been talking about. Now, this is how crucial that this is. When we speak out of who we have become and are becoming in the Lord, when we speak out of who we know we are and where we came from, our origin, when we speak representing righteousness and peace. It's going to mean something. It's going to sound differently, and it's going to mean something different to those who are hearing us. The authentic man equals who we were originally created to be as the likeness and image of Yahweh, righteousness within and righteousness without. When they encounter us, they ought to encounter the righteousness of Yahweh. When they encounter us, they ought to encounter the peace of Yahweh. When they encounter us, they ought to see something very different than they have seen in times past in the religion of Christianity, with most of their introductions to what we call the religion of Christianity. The fictional man equals who we became apart from him based on the trauma of broken fellowship and the anxiety of alienation and isolation. So I've been saying for a long time, I'm remembering who I was in creation before formation, because I was with him. I was with him in his heart, and I was with the Godhead, the triunity, trichotomy of God, and I was with him in spirit. And then he breathed his breath into my nostrils, and I became a living soul. I identify with the last man, Adam, but I can certainly understand my former association and affiliation with the first man. So everything that I became apart from him, whether by genetics, environment, or influence, it's being removed from me, and I am remembering who I was in creation before formation. Lost and found identity. Is it possible that much of the confusion concerning gender is indirectly related to the existential consequences of sin or broken fellowship and identifying with the fictional man? I'm asking a question. I'm not making a statement. I'm asking a question that demands some consideration. Is it possible that much of the confusion concerning gender is indirectly related to the existential consequences of sin or broken fellowship, or identifying with the fictional man? And I have thought this through, so I'll go ahead and answer it for me. It most certainly is. This idea resonates with many theologians' interpretations of sin as not just moral failure, but also an identity crisis, forgetting that we were made in Yahweh's image. However, the story of redemption then is really about restoring that lost identity, that right standing, that right wiseness, that righteousness and peace, by belonging, that sense of belonging again. If you don't think a sense of belonging again, if you don't think acceptance and approval is important, then you just need to open your eyes and look around, bringing humanity back into the awareness of who we are in Yahweh. Yeshua's life, death, and resurrection serve as a reversal of Adam's fall, offering a way to overcome the fear, shame, and spiritual amnesia that resulted from disobedience. It's interesting how this pattern plays out in so many ways, both in biblical narratives and personal experiences. People often search for meaning, identity, and purpose in things that ultimately leave them feeling more lost. That's why we have to continue to redefine ourselves. That there's times in our life when we reach a dead end on our job or our careers or what we're doing, and we feel like we need to redefine ourselves. And so we relocate and we start anew and we start afresh and we try something different. And it's because what we were doing has lost its luster and in some ways lost its reward, and in other ways basically no longer validates us. Am I telling the truth? The true restoration comes from reconnecting with the source of identity, Yahweh himself. Because reconnecting with the source of our identity, Yahweh himself, is not only the most rewarding, fulfilling, and validating, there really is nothing more important than becoming who we're supposed to be by becoming a living expression of the heavenly image, which is righteousness and peace. There's nothing more important. I don't care whether you believe that your path is to become a professional athlete making millions of dollars under contract. I don't care whether or not you believe that your path is going to lead you to an executive position or ownership as an entrepreneur. I don't care whether or not your path has led you down the course and path of service in the restaurant industry, There's nothing more important than the source of our identity, Yahweh himself, and reconnecting with him. Nothing. And nothing will ever satisfy. You can make all the money in the world and still be dissatisfied. All you've got to do is ask a dead celebrity that died prematurely. Oh, Brother Blake, that's just cruel. No, it's not cruel. It's the truth. All you've got to do is ask some of these billionaires that died in prison because of something they got involved with that they shouldn't have been involved with, thinking that they were entitled to be involved with it. At the end of the day, you can have the best of contracts, the best of life, and all that life has to provide for you based on man's understanding of success and achievement, and you can still die empty and alone, not knowing who you really were. Found identity. Everything that was lost by the first man, Adam, was recovered and restored by the last man, Adam. Yeshua, the last Adam, in 1 Corinthians 15:45, came to undo the damage caused by the first Adam. Well, I'm going to ask you a question. At what point is the damage that was caused by the first Adam undone? It was actually undone about 2,000 years ago on the impaling post through the death, burial, and resurrection. And then with the return on the day of Pentecost and the sending of the promise of the Father, we were empowered to walk in that which he had undone. The damage that was caused by the first man, Adam, has been undone for almost 2,000 years, but it's not literally, while it's literally undone, it's not actually undone until we realize it and begin to walk in our true identity. So why is it that so many believers, so-called Christians, that make up the religion of Christianity are still identifying with the first man, Adam, and with sin and having a sin consciousness, continually pray concerning forgive me for my sin before they praise, before they worship, they pray forgive us for our many sins when they're already forgiven. Why is it that so many believers that make up the religion of Christianity still live very closely associated and affiliated with the first man, Adam, and the fictional man, rather than the last man, Adam, and the authentic man, and that which has been restored to us? I'll let you answer that one for yourself. Thank you for joining us today. You are always welcome. And until next time, this is Blake Higginbotham with Home Family Gathering. You can find all of my books and music at www.booksbyblh.me and www.musicbyblh.me. Blessings to you and your household and family.
Home Family Gathering is a listener-supported ministry and we appreciate your support. Apostolic Kingdom Alliance and Blake Higginbotham are supported by the generous contributions of friends and family. We are grateful for your continued support in the ongoing work of Apostolic/Kingdom Ministry. Thank you.